Luca, how are you feeling today?
I would say fulfilled and happy as well. And the reason being that after many years, I'm finally doing something which I always wanted to do.
Okay. And that is?
Money coaching,
The
financial
topic of the day.
well-being, anything related to money makes me happy.
All right.
And now that I'm finally not just doing it for myself, but also to help others, it gives me lots of satisfaction as well.
For sure. And you work full-time in marketing. What drove you into the money realm in the first place?
Yes. So it's an interesting story. So basically, when I was young, I used to see my father working long, hard hours, and although he earned quite a good salary, he used to work at Malta Dry Docks,
Okay.
and at the time it was like you're working for a gaming company
Yes,
right
yes,
now.
yes.
That was the feel at the time, obviously. I noticed that he never saved money, and that whilst my friends were going on holidays and their fathers worked the same work, we never went on a holiday. And when you're young, you trust your parents with
Yes.
everything. And I did ask them question. Listen, why are my friends going on holiday and we are not going on holiday? Is it related to that not saving, maybe?
Yeah.
And the answer I got was, listen, you're still young. Um, these questions are more for adults to answer. So let us take care of finances, and things will fall smoothly because not every family is well off.
Yeah.
And I accepted this answer, okay, for 8 years, because then when I was 18, my dad lost his job. So you can imagine never saving. And in just 3, 4 days, we went from living a comfortable life to living almost near poverty, because with a family of five, I have two other siblings. We went from eating normal food to eating canned tuna in just 1 week. And that struck me because I had always trusted my parents in everything, even in finances, and I thought that nothing wrong can happen. And I would say I was a little bit resentful as well for what happened. And I swore that I don't want the same thing to happen to my family. And I started learning about personal finances, and it was quite a journey because I started reading books. I also took a master's course in finance and investing, even though I never directly worked into the financial sector. I was still very interested in the personal finance also. I started learning by myself, and also starting investing gradually. Um, but although I started learning all this stuff, still I was doing some mistakes. Like, for example, thinking just about saving and not how to spend money in a way that the people around me can enjoy it, which got me into some issues with my friends, with my now wife, because not everyone thinks the same
Yeah.
about money. Money is quite a subject which there are differing opinions. But I thought, since that thing happened to my parents, I was in the right. I was saving money, so everyone had to follow what I was saying. And sometimes you need a life shift to show you another path. And that happened in 2019 when I had two epileptic attacks in one night. And if my
And
wife,
you were already epileptic before
so
then?
there was a suspicion of it, but it was never confirmed.
Right.
And what happens when you have something related to a health scare? If you don't see it with your eyes, sometimes you say, no, it's not it. And back in 2013, I had found myself sleeping on my knees with my head on the bed and some blood dripping from here, but I thought it was just a one-off
Okay.
accident. And so there was this suspicion, but it wasn't confirmed. And when the seizures happened in 2019, I mean, there was my wife sleeping next to me. The second one happened at the hospital. And for a few days, I also lost some memory as well of previous days. But the reason I'm saying this is that then when I came back to my senses and I started remembering things again, the question I started to ask was, why was I doing what I was doing? So why I was saving money, why I was learning about money. And the only reason I could find was not to be like my parents, which was a negative why. It was barely a why, because when I studied it closely, the real my why was enjoying making life experiences with my wife and then with my children eventually, because back in 2019 I was still just
Not a
me and
father.
just me and my wife. And that changed perspective. And when I got eventually the certification to become a money coach, I wanted to tackle money coaching with others in a different way, not just from a practical point of view, so not just from a money management and saving and investing point of view, but also from a psychological point of view, because I really believe that the foundation of everything
Mm.
are childhood experiences and the psychological part of it. So yeah, it was quite a journey
Mm.
until I got where I am here.
Going back a little bit,
Hmm.
Luca, because that's something that is very related to my background as well, and what I do, and then how I help individuals as well. How did it affect your quality of life? The fact that you had two seizures in one night. How I'm sure that it affected other aspects besides
Yeah,
your thinking and thought
yeah,
process
yeah.
about money.
So look, when you have such a health scare, you have two choices. You either choose to say, poor me, and now I am epileptic and I am less than other people because I'm not healthy, or you choose to use that health scare
Mm-hmm.
to become a better
Yeah.
a better person. So of
Can I
course,
stop you for a bit,
yeah,
Luca? Because this is something fascinating. From your eyes, what is epilepsy? Because there might be a lot of misunderstandings, and some of the listeners and viewers might not be fully aware of what
yeah.
epilepsy really is. Can you just briefly explain
Yeah.
what it
So
implies?
in my case, because there are different
Yeah.
forms of epilepsy as well. So, but the way it affected me is always during the night. So even the suspected one happened during the night. And in my case, the main reason for it was lack of sleeping and stress, which had come on me gradually during that year, because it was a very terrible year. I had lost a job. Me and my wife had experienced two miscarriages as well that year, and I had also bought a kitten for my wife to be better, and the kitten died after 5 weeks. So yeah, it was quite here, and gradually it built up. So stress, lack of sleeping, and everything together, and that led to the seizure. Now, in my case, whilst I'm sleeping, my wife thought, because you don't remember what you're doing
Yeah.
during a seizure, I woke up sitting down on bed, and you start, the seizure
Shaking.
starts. And then My wife told me because she was next to me. I went down again and I started, convulsing and shaking. And thankfully, she was next to me, so I didn't remain like this because I could have obviously
Swallowed your
swallowed the
tongue.
tongue and died practically because you cannot control yourself when you're having a seizure. So she turned me on my side until the seizure passed, and the seizure would normally last between 25-30 seconds and sometimes more. Um, w- when the thing I feel when you wake up. So when I woke up, lots of pain in my head. It's like
Okay.
someone beating your
Okay.
your head, yes, with a hammer. That's how I felt. And all I remember, because I lost some memory, and sometimes even when people ask me about it, I don't remember the actual details, but I do remember my father-in-law they helping me to the ambulance. Then they took me to emergency at hospital, where since there were lots of people at hospital, sometimes it happens. Um, I had to wait in the corridor in a bed for around 6 or 7 hours, and I had another seizure whilst I was waiting there. And then I woke up in a room. They took me to a room in a hospital bed, and practically the consequences were I couldn't drive for a year.
Because they suspended your driving license or because you couldn't?
They recommend you don't drive.
Oh,
Obviously, if a health professional says, "Listen,
yeah.
don't drive," you don't drive because they need to ensure that air passes without any more attacks, even though they happen during the night. Um, and then there were some things like um, avoiding heights because in case
Something happens, you
there's
can.
a seizure and you are I don't know, on a roof or somewhere, you can fall down and obviously die. And don't swim on your own because you can obviously sink in the sea. And lifelong, I take pills, medicine. It's a lifelong treatment. Okay, there was an possibility of an operation because the thing causing my seizures, I told you, it's stress and lack of sleep at the time, which led to an internal slight bleeding in my head. I have it's like a small tumor. It's not cancerous, but this caused it to bleed, and the bleeding led to the seizures. Um, so there was a small chance of an operation as well. But I decided to keep on with the medication because even with the operation there wasn't a chance of stopping the
Yeah.
medication. So, but yeah, that was the done.
Okay.
It didn't affect me that much psychologically because I chose not to be affected by it.
Okay.
Because I always say, okay, this happened to me, but there are people going through worse things than I went through, even though the air was terrible.
Mm.
I mean, it's the way you look at life
Mm.
sometimes. And if you say, poor me, poor me, poor me, it will always remain poor me, and you never get out of that rut.
What did this experience teach you about yourself?
It taught me that I had strength in me that I never thought possible because all these things were happening. It wasn't just the epilepsy was the tipping point because before that, two miscarriages, and which, if you ask me, I felt more than the epilepsy because miscarriage miscarriages they bring lots of pain, and my wife passed through very bad experiences as well because at the end of the day she's carrying
Of course.
the unborn child. And so yeah, they were very terrible experiences. And my biggest pain is always when I see my wife's pain. So I would say that the miscarriages were much more uh, painful than the epilepsy, even though the epilepsy limited my own thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, sure,
And
sure,
thank you
sure.
for as well explaining what epilepsy is, because as you said, like with many things, things are very subjective.
Yeah,
So you might have gone through that experience, but other might go through a similar experience but slightly
yeah,
different. So we can share similarities, but there are a lot of some slight
yeah,
differences as well. So thank you for sharing
sure,
and
sure, sure,
expounding on
sure.
that. Back to money.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so you became a money coach.
Mhm.
What does a money coach do?
So, a money coach helps in the financial literacy of other people, but I would say more than more than just a guide. He's a person who listens to whatever you're going through, because money is a very subjective. It's a very subjective topic. So sometimes you have persons dealing with money management issues. Others want to learn more about investing. Then you find others who are doing very well with money, so they have a healthy bank balance, they have lots of property, but they always feel a sense of anxiety when thinking about money, even though they're doing well. And then, which is also my specialty, I would say, you deal with lots and lots of persons earning quite a high income. I don't know, 8, 10,000 per month and even more. Sometimes even multimillionaires, who would find it difficult to save or to keep out of debt as well. And they would be afraid to talk about it because they know that from an outside point of view, they're doing well
Hmm.
financially. But when they come to actually managing their money, saving, investing, or talking about it, they have no one to share what they're feeling, not even their wives or husbands sometimes, because they are ashamed to say that I have a money problem. Because how would we judge these people? I mean, if you asked me 3 years, 4 years ago, I would say, how come that person has a money problem when he's earning 15,000, 20,000 a month, for example? And this is the judgment that all of us are guilty of passing at least once in our lives, you know?
Mhm.
And what happens to these people? They have no one to talk to, so they suffer in silence. And that's why I call them the silent sufferers in a way, because they're passing through this experience and they have no one to talk to. And when I started this money coaching, the first, you know, we call it we paint a client persona
Okay.
in marketing. So, and the first persona were these people. So how I could reach them to help them so that they know that they have a person that they can
Okay.
talk with, not just to help them in their money management, but also to maybe change perspective about the way they're thinking about
Mhm.
money as well.
So who would be your target audience in this?
Oh, I've had several. I've had CTOs, lawyers, even owners of big companies.
And is it always high money earners or?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
So they were the first client
Okay.
persona,
All
okay?
right.
But I do help others, you know, in professionals mostly. I also help lots and lots of couples as well.
Okay.
They come for couples coaching, obviously related to money. Reason being that money is the second reason why many couples separate.
Mm.
First one being infidelity or cheating,
Yes.
whatever. So now I have various ranges. I have companies as well
Okay.
with who I do financial well-being workshops, which is an area which has picked up a lot, both in Malta and also internationally,
Great.
because I did these workshops also in Estonia,
Okay.
in Croatia, and soon I'm going to Greece as well
Nice.
for a 1 week financial well-being workshops. So no, my clients are quite varied, but I mention the silent sufferers a lot because I feel that they're a forgotten section of our society. So even when the government invests in financial literacy and organizes these courses, for example, my question is, will these people attend these courses? And most of the time, the answer is no. And the reason is simple, because normally when you're a well-paid lawyer, CTO, etc., they find it shameful for them to
Of course.
go in a course with, you know, another person earning much
Yeah.
less than them. So I understand them from that point of view. And yeah, that was the reason why I started this to help these people, and then it spread quite quickly into other arenas as well. Now I also have this financial well-being platform, which I am doing with another two persons.
Okay.
It's called Moneypal. So it's like having a personal finance friend
All
in
right. All right.
in your pocket. And the reason I started this was to make the business scalable and to reach even more people, because when you have a technological platform,
Definitely.
the sky's the limit.
Yeah. So it's like, what is one iPad and a little bit more detail? I mean, is it an app? Is it downloadable?
Yeah,
What can you
so
do on it?
yeah, Moneypal. So it's a financial well-being platform. It's practically an app. Currently, we're offering it to companies,
Okay.
to the HR personnel, so that they implement it as part of their well-being strategy for their employees. So practically, an employee logs in, he fills up a questionnaire through which they would learn what their main priorities are related
Yeah.
to their personal finances, because there might be some who want to build an emergency fund, for example. There might be some who want to buy a second property.
Yeah.
It, personal finances are quite subjective, and then according to the goal they choose, they have a tailored platform helping them to achieve that goal. So if the person chooses, I want to buy a second property, the app would give him news related to buying a second property.
Okay. So it has built-in machine learning aspects
Yeah,
to it. Okay.
yeah. Today, nowadays, with AI and
Okay.
this stuff, anything has become possible. A budgeting tool to help him build funds to achieve that goal, and also an academy to help him learn more. So with short videos, articles, etc. And we made it also gamified. So whenever you take a short course, for example, you receive some coins as
Okay.
like,
As a token.
as a token, yeah. And for HR managers, it will be quite helpful also, because they would have their own dashboard and seeing its usage, and also seeing what financial goals are being chosen the most, which can be a very powerful analytical tool for them for to uh, so when they're doing the well-being strategy for their firm, they know what to focus on. So if they see that many of their employees are choosing buying their first home as a main financial goal,
Yeah.
then maybe the company can make an agreement with a local bank, for example,
Yes.
for better interest rates.
Yeah.
So it's always having that knowledge, which they can then use for the benefit of their own
What
workforce.
trends do you see when it comes to financial struggles?
Okay, so they differ, but mostly most questions are more than a struggle. Many people ask about investing. There's quite a lot of interest about investing. So many people want to learn more, because all they hear about investing is put your money in a retirement plan
Okay.
and let it grow. But in reality, it depends where
Yeah.
you're putting your funds, and also who the person giving you advice is. So is the person an investment advisor, or is the person just a salesperson,
Mm-hmm.
for example? So I do have lots of questions about investing, especially from young people between the ages of 25 to 35.
Yeah.
They tend to focus a lot on investing. They don't usually have the issues that couples and parents face, because obviously then the struggles would be different. So some questions I receive from married couples and parents would be, um, will I have enough money to leave my children an inheritance,
Yeah.
for example? That's a common question. Another one would be, um, I am trying to build a rainy day fund, an emergency fund, but with the expenses I'm facing because of the children, because life is, cost of living is getting higher, etc. I cannot manage. I cannot manage. So what can I do to build this rainy day fund? Or what can I do to enhance my personal finances in a way so that in 10 years' time I am in a better position?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that in all these scenarios, what many people miss is that they don't specify what their financial goals are. This lack of specification leads to persons trying to do lots of things without a proper target.
Yeah.
So the first thing they think is that, listen, in order to solve all my money problems, I want to be a millionaire. And, this millionaire status,
Yes, it's becoming a thing, right?
it's becoming, yeah, quite a thing. But in reality, you can be wealthy living with 50,000 a year, for example. Because if for you, uh, your idea of a rich life is going out once a week and buying a pizza for you and your family, if you're happy with that, then you're living
Yeah.
your rich life. But if your idea of a rich life is going abroad 7 times a year, then obviously you need much more than 30, 40, 50,000 a year. So it really depends on what your ambitions are, what your financial goals are, and what will make you fulfilled and satisfied as well. And sometimes being a millionaire can lead to unfulfillment as well, because millionaire status sometimes is not enough as well. So that is what many persons fail to understand it. And you can see them, these millionaires, we see them on TV and whatever, they still lead to suicides because they are unhappy with life. They still lead to lack of money management because they don't have a good financial plan as well. So being a millionaire can solve lots of problems, yes. But if you don't know what your financial goals are, then you can be a millionaire but still be quite unhappy with life. Yeah.
So if so, let's take myself. If I come to you as a money coach, how would the session or what would I get out of it?
Yeah. So the before a session, it always starts with a money questionnaire, which I send to clients before every session. The money questionnaire would directly ask you what your assets are, how much you're earning, etc. Because I would obviously need to know you as a person. I would also ask about your financial goals, and if you don't know them, then that would be one of the first things
Thing
that
that
we
first thing.
cover in the session as well. And then it depends on, because people come with differing questions. Some come for a money management program. In that case, we would do a financial audit of their personal finances
Yes.
to see where they're spending the money, how much income they're earning, and we would see if there's potential to earn more income as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because many people tend to think that to think about the future, you have to invest. And investing is good, yes, but the biggest income maker, so to speak, is when you invest in your own talents and create another income stream coming from there. So you have, for example, a full time job, and then you monetize another passion and you earn income out of it.
Yeah.
And I would say most of the time that would mean a bigger income stream than investing
Yes.
can ever give you.
Hmm.
And I have experienced that myself as well, because I don't mind saying, in the past, when I wanted to save a 1,000 euro, for example, let's say you make a plan 100 euro per month, it will
Yes.
take you 10 months. When I started doing um, money coaching, financial well-being workshops, etc., you can reach 1,000 euro in just one workshop, for example. And that, was quite a learning curve for me. So I said, look, in the past, I had to save 100 euro per month and wait 10 months until I have 1,000 euro. Now I can do that in a 3-hour workshop or in a day, whatever the workshop is. And that showed me the potential of investing in your talent and monetizing it, because it's useless. You have a hobby, okay,
Yeah.
you're enjoying it, but I would say, I would challenge people, listen, if you can monetize your passion, then do so,
That would be the
because,
best.
yeah, because it's useless having a passion and you have the potential to monetize it, but you do nothing about it.
Hmm.
Okay, some people say, listen, I want to keep it as a hobby, and I respect that.
Hmm.
But if you're experiencing financial difficulties, or you just want to earn extra money to invest more, then why don't you monetize your passions as well? And I focus on passions for a reason, because you can just work another part-time job but not enjoy it.
Hmm.
And I don't recommend that, because it will be more stressful for you, and you won't enjoy life as much as when you're doing something which you really love
Hmm.
doing, because time flies when you're doing something you
Definitely.
love doing.
So,
So,
look, you mentioned MoneyPal and
mhm.
the money
Sorry.
coaching aspect. It's okay. Um, how can people use both or choose one? How would that be?
Yeah, so look, MoneyPal also has a coaching aspect to it.
Yeah.
So if a person goes through the academy, goes through the budgeting tool, and he still wants a one-to-one session with a personal finance coach, there is the coaching button, and they can choose a coach which they feel comfortable with. So it's not just an app which will promote me, Lucas, the money coach. But the idea is to put there more money coaches, more financial coaches, not just in Malta, but also
Okay.
internationally. So there is more choice, and maybe a financial coach is more experienced with families and relationships. So the client would prefer to choose that coach. Or maybe they prefer someone more into investing. So there is a coach whose expertise is more
Yes.
into investing. So that is the idea. The tool can be used without the coaching, but from experience, sometimes a client wants to, okay, start building a financial plan, but then they want to do follow-ups or take a one-to-one
Yeah.
sessions, because we tend to underestimate the power of coaching here in Malta. And
Why is that?
I think it's culture.
All right.
I really think it's culture.
Because I do
Uh,
experience that from
yeah.
another coaching aspect. Obviously, I don't do money coaching, but
Yeah.
I do
But
other.
I think it's the culture is changing. The culture is changing because young people, 20 upwards, they are growing up with a different mentality. But there is that resistance
Mhm.
to coaching. I think many people still view it as sometimes a waste of money as well.
Yes.
Do I really need this? That's the question that they ask. And if I compare Malta to the UK, for example, um, so that I don't mention the US, which is completely different,
Yes.
mentioning the UK. In the UK, there are about 5 companies specialized on just financial coaching, and they employ between 50 to 100 money coaches with them.
Yeah.
So
So
imagine
there's a
that.
need.
Imagine that. Yeah, yeah. And I would say there's a need in Malta as well. We just either struggle to admit it,
Mm.
or, as usual, we're 50 years backwards compared to
Yeah, that's
to,
true as well.
to other countries. But the UK government realized this need as well, and he's incentivizing companies to invest in their workforce well-being, especially related to
Hmm.
financial literacy as well. So it's quite normal for a company in the UK to offer their employees a financial well-being platform, for example,
Hmm.
or access to a financial coach, and the company would cover most of the cost.
Hmm.
So that's quite a cultural change
Hmm.
compared to Malta. Okay, money coaching, financial coaching is quite new. So when I started in 2000, it was in January 2023 when I launched my website. And at the time, I was the only one doing it. And it felt strange because it was also a risk, starting this thing which was never heard about. How will the people react to it? And in the beginning, especially in the first 3 months, I mean, I've had some interviews with some local newspapers as well, and when you see the comments of people, it's like you're doing either something unheard of, and some people would say he's after our money, he's a trickster, and this kind of
Mm.
reaction
Okay.
that you get when people don't understand the subject. But I'm very happy to say that once I decide to do something, I'm very focused,
Yes.
and usually my reaction is when I read this hate comments or whatever you call them. I usually tend to laugh at them because sometimes they're so, I don't know where they get their thinking these comments. It can be quite discouraging for persons who are sensitive to them. So you have to have a thick skin. It's
Mm.
like you know politicians. When you're a politician, you're always under scrutiny.
Yes.
When you're doing something new, sometimes some people welcomed it and they were very warm towards it, but there were some who, yeah, they made fun
Hmm.
out of it.
Hmm.
But I think I emerged stronger out of it, and now it's something which um, the work increased, I would say, fivefold for sure since I
Since you
started it.
started,
Yeah,
that's very
yeah,
good.
yeah, for sure.
And what would you say is the lifespan of coaching? So, for example, in my case, when I start coaching someone, it can be either through a tool, which is usually the Clifton Strengths in my case,
Hmm.
or without the tool, because some people do not wish to, or some companies do not wish to undergo the
Yeah.
tool aspect, and we can talk whatever the coachee brings to the table. And usually, in my case, the end goal is not usually predefined because the person is always bringing something up.
Hmm.
In your case, money coaching is quite specific.
Hmm.
So, from my understanding, and I might be wrong, it would be, or it would seem to me, that the end goal would be um, very clear in the sense that the person would learn to manage their money properly according to their own
Hmm.
needs and goals.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, the question would be, how long do you coach people until they reach that point on
Yeah.
average?
It depends. It depends on on what situation the person is as well. Usually, if I take individual
Yes.
sessions, my longest program currently is 6 coaching sessions
Okay, so you
of
have a
1 hour
fixed
and a
program.
half and
Okay.
6 follow-ups as well.
Okay.
And I added the follow-ups for a reason because when
Withdrawal symptoms. Relapses.
yeah, yeah, you know what happens. So the person's with you for 6 sessions of 1 hour and a half, and he's quite focused. And then he's ready to, take the leap by himself. And sometimes they say, "Oh, the coach is not with me anymore, so maybe I can,
You do it.
And in the beginning, I didn't do these checkups, these follow-ups, but now when I started them, the client actually appreciates them because they know that they have that follow-up with their coach in a month's time. So if they're doing a budget plan, for example, and they're saving to grow their emergency fund, and they experience a month where they didn't manage because of cost of living or because they had an emergency, whatever. So instead of feeling discouraged and say, I didn't follow the plan that I discussed with Luca, they have a person they can talk to. They say, listen, I didn't manage this month. Can I do something different maybe so that next month
Yeah.
I manage, or am I doing something wrong? And most of the time they are not doing anything wrong. Most of the time, life happens. Life happens. And many people think that if they don't manage to save money, they're a disaster. And they think that because if you open your mobile and go on TikTok and go on YouTube and all these channels, and you see financial educators talking, sometimes they say, in order to be rich, you have to save €300 a month, €500 a month.
It's sort of like the golden number.
Yeah, and every person is different. So there are persons who have a family, and I have a family myself, and I know that it's not always, uniform. Sometimes you manage to save, sometimes it's difficult to save. There are persons who went through a lot, and you cannot expect them to start saving an amount which seems big to them. In fact, when it comes to saving, I always tell them, listen, save as much as you can. So if this month you can save €20, save €20. If the second month you can save 40, save 40. Don't enforce it on yourself to save €200 per month, because if you put that, you think you would be disciplined to save €200 per month, and you fail once, you fail twice, you fail three times. What most persons think will be, I'm not good with saving, and they will give up. So these follow-ups, they serve, it's the name itself as a follow-up on the client's progress.
Why 6 follow-ups?
So I have this,
Little
6
symmetry.
months, 6 months, half a year, because usually when you're doing a money management plan, this is like businesses. Businesses, they tend to work in quarters, have yearly results, and then the annual plan. Now, to introduce 12 follow-ups for a whole year, it might be too long. But 6 is like half a year commitment, and usually when you have this half a year with a person and you're committed to enhancing your personal finances, it is most of the time enough for the person then to continue independently by himself. Now, there are some cases when the client comes back and say, listen, I achieved that financial goal. Now I have another one. Can I have another session to discuss? And that's completely fine, because financial goals change all the time. If you are saving for an emergency fund and you have 10,000 in mind and you achieve that, maybe your second target will be investing more regularly. That's another financial goal. And this is also what many people fail to understand. Financial goals, you can have many, but to achieve them, not all at once. So step by step. And it's not just a financial goal in 20 years' time or 30 years' time. It's also a financial goal in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time. So a financial goal can even be if you're going to have a baby or you're planning to have a child, saving for that child. In fact, recently I was invited to do a talk at Baby Talks, it was called, the conference.
Of Donna, right?
Of Donna, yes. And a question I was asked is, listen, how much can will a baby cost in this modern world? And I actually went to calculate how much my son cost from the moment my wife got pregnant till the child's first birthday. So I'm including, pediatrician costs, gynae costs, the things you have to buy for the baby, vaccines as well, preparing the bedroom, whatever. And it was very near 10,000 euro. And, you can spend a little bit less, but from the comments I received, even during the conference whilst I was there, and I was approached by the persons around, some actually said, I already spent 10,000 euro before the child was born. Because then you have also to consider that if maybe one parent will stop working for a while or go on reduced, it's also lost income as well. So are you going to consider that as an expense as well?
Yeah.
Because
Would say
yeah, life
would call it as an
changes.
expense, but it's a financial burden.
It's a financial burden, yeah. It's a financial burden. And I'm mentioning this, and this relates to both having a child and the emergency fund. So, being a money coach, I mean, I tended to think that I am now well experienced into personal finances. I still do mistakes, but as much as possible, I limit the mistakes. And what I'm going to say, I wouldn't say it was a mistake, but it was a life event. Life happens. When my second child was born, my daughter, she was okay. But then after 2 to 3 months, we started noticing that, whenever she touched the carpet, for example, she cried. Whenever we tried to give her bottle instead of just breastfeeding, she rejected it. And when she went to the checkup, the doctor said, listen, she has sensory issues. The mother has to stop working because all she's accepting is breastfeeding as food. And my wife, she worked at hospital, and you cannot do remote working for hospital. So, and that lasted a year. So my wife couldn't work for 1 year. So we lost that income. And my emergency fund covered us for 6 months. So we were in a very difficult position that year. Very difficult position because you can do nothing, Your daughter, you have to fix your life, Yeah. Apart from the expenses of going to the doctor and the stuff, obviously. But somehow I had to find a solution to, continue living a normal life as much as possible for the whole year with one income less. The loans still had to be paid. I have a son as well, so his expenses as well. And trying to live as normal as possible in this very expensive world we live in. Because by coincidence, there was, it was the year of inflation, everything going up by 10% or so, but my thinking at the time was, imagine if I did not have 6 months worth of expenses saved up. Because we went to the doctor on a Thursday. From Friday, she couldn't go to work. The maternity, they give you 4 months maternity. Then it's all by yourself. There weren't any government benefits to help you out. So, I had those 6 months. Somehow I had to elongate them even further.
How did you manage?
So this is interesting. So when a client comes, I put myself in a client's position. So I became my own of client. So I went to my what I call forecast spending plan. It's like a simple Excel sheet. It's a budgeting tool. I call it forecast spending plan because it's a more positive term than a budget is, because a
Yeah.
budget brings, some negative connotations
Yes, 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 it
sometimes.
does.
And I went through every expense and I said, okay, so saving, remove. This year I cannot save. Groceries, I'm spending, at the time, it was 700, 800 euro per month. So, can I reduce groceries or not? Very difficult when you have children. But for myself, I said, okay, let's start with milk, for example. I don't care what kind of milk I drink. So, if one brand costs €1, 20 cents, and another brand costs 58 cents, why should I buy the 121? I buy the 58 cents one. So I went through that process as well. And it's incredible. When you're in a difficult position, so with your back against the wall, as they say, you start finding expenses, which in the past you used to think, oh, you'll never remove those
Mm.
because they are part of you. Even like, for example, going out to restaurants. So we're not the kind of persons to go out in expensive restaurants,
Yes.
but I didn't limit that. But instead of going out to eat meat, for example, I went out for a pizza, for example, because it was cheaper. Sometimes I had to limit going out as well, so if it was okay eating at home,
Yeah.
I did that. When it's something related to your family, especially your daughter, you do anything, So, yeah, I went through this sheet, and I literally, how to say, refurbished it
You
for
went
that year.
into through a cost-cutting exercise of sorts.
Yes, but what also helped during that year, my business was growing as well. So the work I had done beforehand to become a
Preparation.
money coach, etc. So I had that extra income stream coming in, which helped in the remaining also the last 3 months of that. So the first 6 months were covered. Then I managed to somehow scrimp for another 3 months, and the last 3 months was through the extra revenue I was doing through
Right.
Meta. So that's why I emphasize a lot invest in yourself, because the more knowledge you have and the more ways to increase your revenue streams, the better in position you are. Because even if you, God forbid, lose a job that you really like doing, will you be, with your back against the wall because that's the only job you can do, or do you have other
Yeah.
talents which you can monetize? So it's also something, your safety net.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yes, it was a difficult year. I wouldn't say it was more difficult than the one that I shared with
Yes.
you in the beginning, because that had lots of psychological. And this was a challenge because it was something which I never thought would happen
Mm-hmm.
to me, And now, even whenever I'm in a session with a client, I do mention it because you never think that these things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
When they're related to health, they make it even more, how to say, difficult
Mm-hmm.
to tackle with.
Look, from what I'm hearing, you like to use storytelling quite a bit. You like to
Yeah,
recount stories and share stories about yourself, and we've been connected on LinkedIn for quite a while.
yeah,
And you do share quite a bit about yourself. Um, why do you think that is so? Two questions into one. How do you
yeah,
think it helps others, and how does it help you?
yeah. So, how does it help others? I I've been following lots of financial educators for the past obviously 15 years. You have to do your research before you start dating. And what I noticed was that you see lots of these people, and they portray themselves as a know-it-all sometimes. And I decided to take a calculated risk. I decided to put myself there and show 100% truth what happened to me, and also my vulnerabilities as well out there, because I believe that the normal person, even if you are a millionaire or whatever, you pass through difficult experiences in your life. And this is the reality. It's useless I go and say, oh, I've been investing for 20 years regularly and I've been doing 10% a year with no problems at all. And I try to hide that I experienced that year when my daughter was born. I mean, that's quite artificial in my opinion. And I found consistently that persons relate more to real life experiences than to a person who seems like a know-it-all. Sometimes people would feel less comfortable talking to that kind of person because, okay, you might be a person who has lots of qualifications, who when he appears on a camera or the articles that they're writing, they're always do this, and you'll be fine. You have to understand the person's position before you can say that. So I tell my story because many things happen to me, and I'm sure that the person on the other side can relate to at least one of them.
Yeah.
So if it was a health scare, if it was a marriage issue, it was a parental issue, or a job loss, or maybe when he was young he experienced poverty, there is usually one thing which they can relate to. And many persons, they appreciate that you're sharing that vulnerability. In the beginning, I used to think if I share this thing, this weakness, will they say that I'm not going to trust that person because he does mistakes? So at the beginning, I was a little bit afraid of it because I was new, But I really believed that it could be more of a game changer than putting myself there as the Ramsey of Malta, because Ramsey of
Yes.
the US. He sits there and he says, "I have to do this." He has these principles, and they're fine,
Yeah.
and they're fine. But I believe that when you do it when you're sharing your story, people tend to remember stories much more than putting principles, regulations, laws on them. And so, yeah, I believe that people appreciated that, and it helped me as well to grow as a person because if I don't recount what happened to me to others, you tend to forget what happened to you, and then when a bad thing happens, it might seem like the end of the world. But in reality, when you think about your past, I passed through a much worse situation than the one I am currently in. So it changes your perspective there. And in fact, as I was telling you before we started the podcast, right now I'm also writing a book. I've always, for years, I always had a passion for writing. I used to write novels. Last novel I wrote was in the uplit genre, so with the educational side, but a happier ending. Then I stopped, but I always liked this, this art of storytelling. And in this book, I intend to not just show principles because that would be a normal, kind of book, but also to share stories, not just mine, but also of others, obviously protecting the client's privacy and blending stories together. Because I really and truly believe that when a person is reading a story, he learns more because he remembers it more than sharing a set of rules and say, listen, this is the personal finance Bible that you have to follow to achieve success in life.
With all of these stories, Luca, is there anyone that you struggled with It might be as an individual, as a story, you might have resonated so deeply with it and make you think or scratch your head a little bit as well.
Yeah, I would say the first one of the first clients that I had. Um, so let's call this person Paula. And when she came to me, she said, "Look, Luke, I was working as a manager in a company, and I was earning 30,000 euro per year. Now I changed job, and I'm earning 50,000 euro per year. That was 4 months ago. And she had said, I have three issues now. So, although I'm earning more, I have more debt, I'm not managing to save, and the biggest problem of them all was that I don't want to show my husband that I'm passing through these difficulties." And when I sat there and listened to all of this, first thought was, how come this person is earning 20,000 more and she's not managing to save? And
Hmm.
that initial judgment that every person
Yeah,
does.
it's the rational
At
question
the
to
rational
ask.
question, yeah. And then when she said, you know, not telling her husband about it, and I said, oh, this is also a relationship issue then. So I have to be even more careful how I tackle it, because I feel lots of, you know, responsibility when it comes to relationships,
Hmm.
because I have a very good relationship with my wife, and yes, there are moments where we fight, etc., like any couple does. But I really appreciate when there's a couple who goes through all these difficult moments, but still manage to raise a family, to live life together, especially in today's world where
Yeah.
it's become much more difficult. So I was feeling very responsible for this person. And it was difficult because the problem was not just a money management problem,
Hmm.
although from the outside you see it as
Yeah.
there was a money management issue, obviously. But the main issue, the foundational issue, was that this person, when she was young, her father was a miser, so he never bought her gifts, he never bought her things. So she always lived the poor life kind of thing. So the moment she had access to more money than she could dream of, 20,000 more per year is a nice
Definitely.
amount, is a
So
nice amount, yeah.
she almost doubled her salary.
Yeah. She said, now I can buy the latest iPhone. I don't have to wait another year to buy. Now I can buy handbags of a different brand. Now I can invest in a new car. Now I can do this. Now I can do that. And she rebelled. She went to the other extreme that her father was.
Yeah.
And this, I noticed it because, a person can either inherit his parents' characteristics, or they can go to another extreme,
Yeah.
which is still bad. And this is what this person had done. So I believe that if I had guided this person, okay, through a money management system, and it would have worked out fine, but I believe that in a few weeks' time, she would have gone back to her old habits, because we wouldn't have tackled it from a psychological uh,
Yeah.
point of view. And when we did tackle it from a psychological point of view, and we went back to her childhood memories and what she was resenting, and she was still resenting her father for it. And it was this resentment which led her to make certain decisions now, even years later. So she was carrying this resentment, and this resentment was causing her problems with her money management and also in her relationship.
Yeah.
So she was carrying it forward. So the issue now became more than just a money management coaching session, but it was also a session where I helped her go through a process of leaving this resentment behind and seeing life in a much more positive way, and also realizing what her financial goals were.
How did you
And
manage that? Because that's quite a therapeutic stance you took there.
Yes, so
That's a school of thought of its own.
yeah, so in my certification as a money coach, there are many certifications to become a financial
Yeah.
coach. The one I did was with Deborah Price. She's the head of the Money Coaching Institute. And the way she teaches money coaching is not the practical way. So it's not just how to make a budget, how to help them save, etc. Those things I knew. The process was a money discovery process. So starting from your money story,
Mm-hmm.
going through your shifts in life, your patterns around money, who are the persons affecting you when it comes to your relationship with money, and then from there building a money pattern grid, which helps you realize what kind of characteristics you inherited from other persons, mostly from your mother and from your father, and then going on a journey of how to tackle that from a behavioral, spiritual, and practical point of view.
Okay.
So if you are an anxious person around money, how are you going to become a confident person? It's not just through a good money management plan, but a change in behavior, and then also a change in spirituality kind of thing as well. It was a long process, this certification. So it wasn't easy, but it was very, very interesting because you could see money from a psychological
Yeah.
point of view, not just from a practical point of view
Mm.
as well. So,
I
yeah.
think you've uploaded a photo, The Psychology of Money. You're reading it's a book, right? You're reading the book,
Yeah,
or
I
you
read
read
it
the
three
book.
times. I read
Yeah,
it three times that book. So yeah, it's one of my favorite books about money. So it's written by Morgan Housel. He looks at money from not just from the practical point of
yeah,
view, but from a behavioral point of view as well. And he also wrote another book called Same as Ever, because some things get repeated when it comes to history, to money. They say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
okay,
So let's mention the stock market, for example. There was a Great Depression. There wasn't another Great Depression, but there was a very big recession
yeah,
in 2008, 2009. And similar mistakes were done. So, you know, psychologically, we might think that we're advancing, but we're still doing the same
yeah.
mistakes, and that comes from behavioral aspects or forgetting past mistakes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I believe that when it comes to psychology, it's the foundation of everything. And in Malta, there's a struggle when it comes to psychology because when persons come for financial coaching, they tend to say, "I just want the money management part, and that's it.
Yeah,
No need to go into the psychological aspect." So they see it as something extra which they don't really need to invest in. And when talking with persons, you know, outside Malta, Italy, Lithuania, you name it, they tend to respect the psychological process much more than
yeah.
we Maltese do. And that was quite an eye opener also for me. So yeah.
Quite interesting because that is directly my line of work. My background in psychology, and I am driven by evidence-based psychological principles in what I do even at
Yeah.
Endeavor. So that's quite interesting to me, and I can see how it ties into to the money aspect of it, like the belief system that we hold with money, and what we believe to be true
Yeah.
when it comes to the aspect of
Hmm.
money. So that's something very, very interesting. I might read
Yeah.
the book as well. So
Yeah. 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 It's an international bestseller on psychology of money. But there are many books related to the behavioral
yeah,
aspect of finance, which are quite. They make quite an interesting read because you tend to see how the mind of a person works and also how this affects his investment decisions, for
Yes.
example, and the herd mentality and FOMO, fear of missing out, and this kind of stuff,
Yes.
which is related to the personal financial aspect as well.
Look, we're drawing to the nearly end. We've been going for a little bit over than an hour. So it's time for us
To pick up
to
the
pick up the question of the day.
So, and I answered this question, or
Yes, please, you have to answer. You're the
all
guest.
right. So let's see how I can read it. Yeah.
Yes, yes, of course you can.
How do you embrace change and adapt to new circumstances? So,
I think
it's you should have marked.
I will give you a free pass to
Yeah.
choose another one because you've been
This.
highlighting this throughout today's
Yeah.
episode.
So let's see. Let's pick another one. This is quite a big fish bowl, eh?
It is
Yeah.
quite big. few
So
few
I
paper.
picked two. Okay, let me. So let's see this. Okay, what's your personal mantra or motto that guides you through life's challenges?
This is an interesting one.
Yeah. So I'd say I read a lot about successful people. One of them being one of my idols, Steve Jobs, who he died a millionaire. He invented Apple, one of the most famous persons that have ever lived. But on his deathbed, when they asked him, "Are you fulfilled? Are you happy?" He didn't say yes. So this multimillionaire created, a product which we still use on a daily basis nowadays, and still not happy. And with this voice of regret, in him. And it's something which I always feared, living a life of regret. And it's why I also decided to take chances in life as well. One of them being this money coaching venture. Because I believe that if I wanted to live a normal life, a comfortable life, I would have remained as I was, doing the things that are expected of me, having these dreams, but keeping them as dreams.
Yeah.
But being a parent, I always imagine my children growing up and asking, "But Dad, are you happy in what you're doing? Or can I do that because I always dream of doing that?" I cannot, in full honesty, tell them, "Yes, chase your dreams, follow your dreams," if I'm not following my own dream. Whatever there is and the challenges that it brings with it as well. So my mantra, when there's an opportunity, I take it. You have three choices when you have an opportunity. You either don't realize that the opportunity is there, so obviously you lose it. You see that opportunity, but you say, not now, maybe in a year's time, maybe in 10 years' time, now it's not the right time. Or you just say, man, just like Nike says, just do it, just try it, okay? And see what happens. And I find that, okay, you can fail, but at least you tried. And when in 20, 30 years' time, whatever, you look back at your life and say, I could have become a money coach, but I didn't because it was not the right time. The feeling you will get is maybe you'll be rich, yes, but if only I had tried it, maybe I could have been happier, or maybe I could have made a change in other people's life. And this goes on for everything, not just money coaching, but for every opportunity that we have. And I truly believe that every person has one, two, several opportunities to change his life. And it is up to them to realize that the opportunities are there and to make that leap of faith, as they say.
Luca, thank you
Thank you.
for your time.
Yeah.
and for reaching out as well,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with regards to money. I'm interested in money, in the psychology of money, so
yeah,
I will
yeah,
look into it a
yeah,
little bit more so that I can understand it and appreciate it
yeah,
a little bit better as well. And hope you enjoyed our
yeah.
conversation as
Quite a
well.
lot, quite a lot. Thank you for inviting me over, and an hour passed, you said?
More than an hour,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So it was felt like 10 minutes for me. So yeah, that's
Thanks, Luca.
passion. That's
That
passion.
is, that's
That's
truly
passion.
passion.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Luca.